Hello, happy whatever today is. So I've been doing a lot of reading during this pandemic season. I've been really trying to get back to reading, which is something I've always enjoyed but haven't really given myself a lot of time to do. And so I figured this would be the perfect time. And I am reading a couple books right now that have really been speaking to a lot of the things that I've been really thinking recently. I graduated from my master's program last year, and when you graduate, that's a time of so much momentum, and it's supposed to be the time where you launch into whatever's next, with a job, with a career, with, the excitingness that surrounds adulthood, and maybe it's the time you get your first apartment or something like that. And so, however, this season, with the season that we're in right now, a lot of job processes were frozen and a lot of hiring processes were halted. And a lot of people were not able to find jobs, and it forced a lot of people into kind of an unconventional situation, a unique situation. And something that I had been really struggling with during this time is the idea of what unconventional looks like. I enjoyed my grad school experience for many, many reasons. I learned a lot of really awesome skills. I also think when you're in school for like 90 years, you are so conditioned into certain ways of thinking, especially when you go through business school. I was in business school for grad school, and business school has such a way of doing things. They have such a method in, getting you from, classes to internship to job to, it's all a pipeline, in my opinion. And you start to really think and internalize the things that they have been, telling you from day one. Have to go to career fair, have to do job market, have to do all these things. All of these things are necessary in order for me to have a job, because a job is what you want. A career is what you want. And a lot of people I have found, they take all of that information, they do all the things that they're supposed to do, and then they end up in a job that's paying them the money that they should be making, and they hate it. They hate it, they hate what they're doing, they hate themselves for committing to something like that. And they're not having a good time. I am of the belief that you can find happiness and success simultaneously. It may take a lot of doing, and it may take a lot of effort on your part, but I don't believe that it's impossible. And for people who go into their careers and they do the typical, start from the bottom, work their way up the ladder, grind until you reach, an upper level position, a senior level position. I do have respect for that, because that does take a lot of drive and a lot of commitment. It also takes a lot of self-sacrifice. I've seen it in my friends who graduated before I did, a year or two before I did, and then they joined careers that was like the top of the line career, but then they didn't feel like real people anymore. They felt like they lost their sense of autonomy. And so I knew coming out of graduation into the pandemic that my pathways was gonna look a little bit different than what I was expecting. At the time of graduation, I had interviewed for 5 different companies, and I made it to the final round of a lot of those interviews. And then I started to get callbacks, one by one, by each of them, saying that their hiring practices had frozen because of the pandemic. But here's something that I have learned. There has not been left a lot of room for unconventionality in the way that we've been taught. And this book that I'm reading has really put it into perspective what I had been feeling for a while, going through school. And I'm gonna read some of this book to you. The book is by Don Miguel Ruiz, and it's called The Four Agreements. And I'm, only maybe halfway through this book, but there's already been some things that have really spoken to me. And I'm gonna read some of it to you now. So in the first chapter of this book, he talks a lot about human domestication. And I love this concept, I love this idea. It really got me thinking about, when you domesticate an animal, it's for the purpose of them being more friendly around people, more suitable for the environment around humans, and that they're just easier to, train and easier to, manage and maintain. Similarly, with human domestication, Mr. Ruiz argues that You go to school all of this time and you learn how to be a member of society. You learn how to be a part of the larger collective. You learn how to follow the rules and all of those things. And not all of that is bad. I don't want it to sound like that. However, when you're a child, you don't really have the agency to choose your own beliefs. You're taught things from your parents' perspective, you're taught things from your teacher's perspective, and you have all of these ideologies instilled inside of you. And that's a part of the domestication process, because how many people do we know go through 20, 30, 40 years of their life with the same belief system that they were given when they were a child, without ever questioning anything that they were taught, without ever questioning anything that they believe. They just spend multiple years believing the same thing. That's a part of the human domestication. Being so limited in your belief and being so narrow that all of the things that you were taught, you just absorb. All of the things that you were told, you just, integrate it into your own personal belief system. Another part of this human domestication that he talks about is the idea that school systems, parents, they instill inside of you this inner judge, this inner police officer, which is what I like to call it, that polices you on the things that you're being told. And so what happens is you start to reinforce within yourself the things that you have been handed. And so, for instance, earlier I was talking about grad school and how, in grad school they're so good, and really school in general, they're so good at telling you, these are the steps. You have to go through this channel to reach this outcome, to reach this outcome. Schools will also tell you that you have to, be competitive, you have to grind, you have to, work and, show that you're worthy of your position and, all of these things. And then that inner judge, that inner police officer will tell you, you're not doing enough. You need to do more. You need to apply to more things. You need to send your resume to more things. And that's all self-inflicted because we have absorbed that ideology as truth. So Mr. Ruiz says, the belief system is like a book of law that rules our mind. Without question, whatever is in that book of law is our truth. We base all of our judgments according to the book of law, even if these judgments go against our own inner nature. This makes me think about people who push others down to elevate themselves. And it may not necessarily be because they're bad people, but it's a part of that inner book of law that they have to succeed, that they have to do everything to succeed, whatever the cost, whatever it takes. Because success is so highly valued. You go to school, you have this multi-$1,000 degree, and of course you want to make use of it. Of course you want to succeed. Of course you want to be elevated. Of course you want to be recognized. But how many people, go against their own internal moral workings in exchange for the idea that they have to reach some level, they have to reach some position, they have to really get up there. Mr. Ruiz also goes on to say, there is something in our minds that judges everybody and everything, including the weather, the dog, the cat, everything. The inner judge uses what is in our book of law to judge everything we do and don't do, everything we think and don't think, and everything we feel and don't feel. Everything lives under the tyranny of this judge, or police. Every time we do something that goes against the book of law, the judge says you are guilty. We need to be punished. We should be ashamed. This happens many times a day, day after day, for all the years of our lives. Man, it's crazy because I think about all of the times in undergrad, all of the times in grad school that I would punish myself just for wanting to take a break. All the times I would punish myself just for, maybe playing some video games or maybe taking a nap. And then I would wake up feeling guilty because what I had internalized is that success comes from this notion of nonstop work. This success comes from this notion of you gotta be productive, you gotta be productive. And my inner police would punish me for not being productive, would punish me for not, constantly outputting stuff, constantly reading a textbook, constantly doing homework, constantly reworking, different case studies or problems or whatever the case may be. And I would inflict all of this punishment on myself. And so During the season, I'm learning that that is a voice that needs to be silenced. There's no need to punish yourself so often. There's no need to always hold yourself under the scrutiny that you should be doing more, that you should be challenging yourself in this very, very unhealthy way. I will say it is not unhealthy solely to think, what else can I be doing? Because I think you should always be thinking, you know, hey, is there room for improvement here? Is there area for growth here? There's a very healthy way to go about that. I'm more so talking about the way in which it becomes obsessive, the way in which you don't allow yourself breaks, the way in which you don't allow yourself mental health opportunities, self-care opportunities. That is the voice that needs to be silent. So how do you silence this inner police officer? How do you silence this inner judge? I'm glad you asked. I'm gonna be real. I don't have all the answers yet. This is something that I have just started myself, trying to undo these obsessive thoughts, trying to undo this inner policing. But something that has helped me is anytime I have, you know, the inner police tell me something or try to arrest me, I immediately confront that with an alternative thought. Immediately confront it with an alternative viewpoint. Don't let those thoughts linger. Don't let those thoughts take hold. Because when you confront those thoughts immediately, you are reworking your brain. You are reconditioning your brain to shift its thought process into something a little bit more positive and a lot less restrictive. So that inner police officer comes at you and is like, you haven't done nearly enough today. You haven't really accomplished anything. What have you even been doing today? You're just being so lazy. You haven't accomplished all your tasks. There's so much work that needs to be done and you haven't even done part of it. I stop myself and I say, you know, how awesome that I was able to relax a little bit today. How awesome that I was able to chill and rest up a little bit today. I know that all of the things that I have to do will be done in its perfect timing. I trust myself to get all of my work done. I trust myself to get all of my work done in perfect timing. I trust myself to be a good manager of my time. And in managing my time, I recognize that it's necessary that I make time for me. It's necessary that I make time to have fun. It's necessary that I make time to relax and sleep and take long baths and take naps and eat and snack and all of those other things I enjoy that don't take away from the work that I have to do, but enhance my general well-being. That's what I've started to do. That's what I've started to tell myself when the inner police starts yapping away. Those are the things that I start to say. And little by little, it helps. I'm excited to learn more. I feel like there's so much more to learn. There's so much to undo. There's so many thoughts that require undoing, but it's awesome to recognize when something is unhealthy. I think something that people don't appreciate more often is when you recognize that something's wrong, when you recognize that something's not serving you. That's not cause to be upset. That's not cause to be frustrated. That's really cause to be happy, because the sooner you recognize that something's wrong, the sooner you can, progress on your growth in that area. Don't let that inner police bully you. Don't let them do it. Don't use your words to harm yourself any longer. Don't use your thoughts to harm yourself any longer. And I know that's easier said than done, but commit to it little by little, Thanks for tuning in and hope you have a great rest of your day or night.